kissing booths, love triangles, and an unclaimed rose. Welcome to the season 10, episode 2, Bachelor in Paradise recap here on the Flame Entertainment and Sports. All right, guys, welcome in. Let's get into this recap of the second episode of season 10 of Bachelor in Paradise. It's going to be a quick one, as we have episode 3 of Paradise already coming out tomorrow. So, week 1, we had a 3-hour premiere. Then episode 2, 3 hours. And then tomorrow, episode 3 will be 2 hours. We'll see the golden Bachelor contestants be welcomed in. But yeah, so to start off with this quick recap of episode 2. So as I said, in the intro, there was a kissing booth, there's a couple of love triangles, and there's an unclaimed rose, right, to end the episode. Those are going to be the main 3 themes of this recap for you of Bachelor in Paradise. So let's start off with the kissing booth reference. So there's a pretty cool game. I think it was a really creative and helpful game, actually, for a reality dating show. It was a kissing booth game, and basically each contestant on an iPad, they're able to swipe right or swipe left in terms of if they wanted to kiss the person they're seeing on the screen. Everyone had a chance, to swipe for literally every single other person. And, we had a couple people that had multiple kisses, such as Dale. He kissed a couple girls, but ultimately it seemed as if his kiss with Kat was the best. And then Ali Joe, who was a newcomer in this episode, I would say that was probably Dale's second best kiss. Then we had someone like Jeremy, who only had one person who swiped right on him, and that was Bailey. And, the kissing booth game, I got to credit the producers on this one. I think this is one they got to keep in going forward because, it kind of gives you, first of all, like a Love Island type of vibe. It's like a game you'll see there, but also I think in comparison to the first game that we saw last week on episode 1, this one was way better. Last week was the one where like each person put a couple things that describe themselves, and then the other people would say whether they were attracted to that type of personality and stuff like that. And I thought it wasn't bad, but I didn't really think it was helpful in terms of them trying to find a connection at all. So to see them in the next episode vastly improve their game, I want to shout out the producers there. And yeah, the kissing booth game was pretty cool. As I said already, Dale, he had multiple kisses. I don't think that was a shocker. Jeremy, I was kind of shocked because obviously I did expect him and Bailey to kiss, but I felt like some other girl would just like swipe right on him just to try it out. But ultimately, he just got Bailey, and he said he swiped on 4 girls. So we don't know who the 3 other girls were besides Bailey, but I thought that was interesting to note. Now to move on to the love triangle. So yeah, we had a couple of love triangles in the second episode. We had Brian. Brian last week got his rose from Zoe, and then this episode, one of the newcomers is Parisa, and ultimately, the episode ends with Brian giving his rose to Parisa at the end of it and sending Zoe home. I feel like this was shocking because in episode 1, it kind of seemed like they had a nice connection, Zoe and Brian. Then all of a sudden, from one day to another, it kind of seemed like Brian kind of got, I don't know if it was turned off or, maybe he was just trying to really get that rose last week and didn't really feel anything with Zoe. Or perhaps it was, seeing someone new walk in, like excited him and Parisa. So, it's going to be interesting to monitor going forward. I'm not really expecting Brian and Parisa to go a long term here. I won't be shocked in the next episode or 2 if they're already broken up. But ultimately, we'll see. And like I said, Zoe did go home. And the other triangle, the main love triangle in this episode, was between Lexi, Justin, and then Justin's ex-girlfriend. She finally came in this episode, Susie Evans. It was, kind of a love triangle between them. Episode 1, Lexi gave her rose to Justin, but both kind of understood about the whole Susie thing. Justin kind of, talked to Lexi, kind of sharing that he wasn't sure if he was over Susie. And then Lexi, you could tell last week was very worried. And, she didn't really feel comfortable and wasn't sure if Justin was truly ready to move on from Susie just months after, him and Susie broke up. Ultimately, in this episode, there's a scene where things are getting pretty intense, and Lexi kind of reveals to Justin that she doesn't feel comfortable moving along with him right now because she still kind of feels like he might not be over Susie. And then Justin's completely heartbroken. He breaks down in the ITM. He starts crying. And ultimately, Lexi has her final words. The two kind of, finish the conversation. And of course, Bachelor producers are incredible. All of a sudden, seconds later, walks in Susie. And it was just unbelievable. Lexi wasn't shocked. Justin wasn't shocked. But the timing was just incredible that right when Justin and Lexi, kind of ended things, like all of a sudden Susie walks in. It was just perfect drama, perfect reality TV moment there. So shout out to the producers once again. Doing a great job so far, on this early season 10 of Bachelor in Paradise. So yeah, ultimately, Now to move on to the unclaimed rose, right? The third theme I mentioned in the intro. So the episode ends with Justin being the final guy to have a rose. Everyone thinks he's going to give it to Lexi, right before the rose ceremony. Lexi and him kind of, they kiss and they talked again, and it seemed like they're going to move forward. And ultimately, during the rose ceremony, I didn't mention this, but Jeremy, who, as I said, the only kiss he got was from Bailey. But Jeremy did go on a one-on-one in this episode with Susie, and it seemed like they did hit it off. Ultimately, Jeremy gave his rose in this episode to Bailey, and therefore Justin was willing to give up his time on the beach in order to give Susie an opportunity to find love. Instead of giving his rose to Lexi, he gives it to Susie. Then Susie says she cannot take the rose. She thanks Justin for being so nice and willing to risk him finding love in order to give her the opportunity, but ultimately she can't accept it. You could tell that she feels for Lexi, and then ultimately the episode ends with Jesse Palmer saying basically, all right, guys, we'll be right back, kind of giving Justin and Susie their time away. So ultimately, tomorrow's episode will likely start, at how this episode finished. We'll see whether or not Justin stays, Susie stays, if they both go home, if Lexi's given the rose by the show. We really don't know, so we're going to have to wait and see on that. But yeah, guys, I thought this was a great episode of Bachelor in Paradise. So make sure to stay tuned tomorrow, p.m. Eastern time on ABC, Bachelor in Paradise Season 10, Episode 3. Once again, I want to give another shout out to the producers, because I feel like they really killed it and showed off in this episode of Bachelor in Paradise. They did an amazing job with the games, with the timing, with Susie walking in and all the stuff. It was amazing. Cannot wait to see the Golden Bachelor contestants be welcomed into the beach tomorrow, especially April. You could tell in the preview she's gonna, make a name for herself, and I'm not shocked by that. I feel like the beach and Paradise is perfect for someone like April. I think she's gonna kill it. I can't wait to see her finally come on the show tomorrow, along with Leslie and the rest of the Golden contestants will be on the beach this summer. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this Season 10, Episode 2, Bachelor in Paradise recap. If you guys want to share your thoughts with me, make sure to hit us up on Instagram and TikTok at @theflame_ES. We'd love to hear from you. And once again, make sure to tune in to ABC tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time to watch Episode 3 of Season 10, Bachelor in Paradise. Keep up with us once again on Instagram and TikTok at @theflame_ES. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And until next time, everyone, take care.